Shabbat Shalom. Today, two holidays unite on the same day. The 15th of Shvat in our Jewish calendar, the holiday of Tu B'Shvat, where we celebrate Chag HaElanot, the New Year for trees, and Shabbat Shirah, on which we chant the Song of the Sea. These two important dates in the Jewish calendar call out to us with a deep and important reminder. The possibility of renewal is everywhere at all times. This convergence is no coincidence. They both represent miracles. No, not like Smokey Robinson, who I guess is a Detroit miracle, but miracles of biblical proportions. Just as a sidebar, did you notice the full moon last night? Seeing a full moon always reminds us that it's the exact halfway point in any Jewish month, the 15th of the month. Tu B'Shvat reminds us that trees are a miracle. God gave us the land to live on, and it's up to us to take care of it. As it is written in the book of Leviticus, chapter 19, verses 23 through 25, when you come to the land and you plant any tree, you shall treat its fruit as forbidden. For 3 years it will be forbidden and not eaten. In the 4th year, all of its fruit shall be sanctified to praise God. And in the 5th year, you may eat its fruit. Trees represent life. How interesting that this commandment tells us how to treat, raise, nurture, and protect trees. Even the pair of wooden dowels that we wrap our Torah scroll around are called Eitz Chaim, the tree of life. Trees are also a symbol of renewal, of rebirth. In spring, we get excited to see the new green growth on our former barren trees from the winter. It visually reminds us of renewal, of hope. Maybe that's why the State of Israel's anthem, Hatikva, literally means the hope. Here at Shaarey Zedek, we follow the commandment with our green team. You see the insert that was in the Shabbat card. And the green team's goal is to heighten our awareness of ecology through very practical actions. The green team has worked on the special lunch today in celebration of Tu B'Shvat by having our centerpieces made by our religious school students from recycled materials, putting Hazzan information on our tables, using compostable plates, cups, and silverware, supplying recycling containers, using glass cups for coffee and tea, and displaying educational signage, among other things. You know, when I was a student at the Solomon Schechter Day School in Philadelphia, my classmates and I, including my bunkmate at Camp Ramah, Rabbi David Wolpe, celebrated Tu B'Shvat by planting trees in the school's garden and also raising money for J&F with the blue boxes, the pushkis, and eating boxer or carob. In light of the recent terrible acts of arson, the terrorists committed by setting fire to many forests in Israel, where more than 10,000 fruit trees were destroyed, we can all do our part in donating to J&F to help replant and reforest Israel. Shabbat Shirah reminds us of the miracle of the parting of the Red Sea and of the song Moses and the children of Israel sang, which was chanted so beautifully by our assistant cantor, Leonard Gutman. It speaks to the same principle of renewal. Every Friday night during Kabbalat Shabbat, we recite Psalm 96, sing unto the Lord a new song. The Hasidic master, the Sifat Emet, draws a connection between the Song of the Sea and the verse from Psalms, God has placed in my mouth a new song. What is the meaning of this new song, he asks. It means that there is a song in us that will always be there, that has and will always have the power of renewal. It is in our souls and it can never be forgotten. This is the deliverance that is there for every generation. Lord Rabbi Jonathan Sachs says, for the first time since their departure from Egypt, the Israelites do something together. They sang. Az Yashir Moshe Uvnei Yisrael. Then Moses and the children of Israel sang. Rashi said that they spontaneously sang the song together, says that the Holy Spirit rested on them and miraculously the same words came into their minds at the same time. In recollection of that moment, tradition has named this parsha Shabbat Shirah, the Sabbath of Song. Rabbi Sachs then asks, what is the place of song in Judaism? He explains that there is an interconnection between music and the spirit. When language aspires to the transcendent and the soul longs to break free of the gravitational pull of the earth, it modulates into song. The history of the Jewish spirit is written in its songs. The words do not change, but each generation needs its own melodies. Words are the language of the mind. Music is the language of the soul. Think about that. So what makes Jewish music Jewish? Or what, for that matter, what is Jewish music? When it comes to defining what is Jewish music, everyone has their own opinion. According to our eminent Rabbi Starr, any song that has an A minor in it is Jewish music. Wikipedia says, Jewish music is the music and melodies of the Jewish people. There exist both traditions of religious music as sung at the synagogue and domestic prayers, and of secular music such as klezmer. Others say Jewish music stems from ancient prayer chants of the Levant some 3,000 years ago. The musical notation that developed and that we find in the Tanakh today, called trope, is one of the most ancient forms of notated music, and yet it still is current in practice today all over the world. Jewish music has been constantly adapting to new conditions and yet retaining its identity in many widely differing ethnic, social, and religious environments. Currently, Jewish music encompasses a wide array of musical traditions, and Jewish songs are sung in many different languages. There's Ashkenazic, Yiddish, klezmer, Sephardic, synagogue, Western classical, secular, and Israeli, just to name a few. And what makes Jewish music Jewish? Jewish music for a long time was strongly influenced by whatever culture we were living alongside at the time of its composition. Much of the music, which has many people consider a Jewish sound, is really influenced by folk tunes from Eastern Europe. So when someone comments that a song doesn't sound Jewish, they may not be aware that the sounds of Jewish music have many different features. A Jew of Middle Eastern or North African descent would not necessarily recognize Eastern European shtetl music as Jewish, Ashkenazic versus Sephardic. We can see that a Jewish sound is really dependent upon the culture in which it's rooted. I remember learning that Hasidim used to take drinking songs from the Napoleonic army and turn them into nigunim, wordless songs used in devotional settings. A great example of this is the melody we sing for Ein Keloheinu. Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadondeinu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu. You get the visual. So if any song from any culture can fit under the umbrella of Jewish music, what would be considered a prerequisite for qualification as Jewish music? Is it the composer that's Jewish? There's no dearth of Jewish composers out there. Irving Berlin, Leonard Bernstein, Ernest Bloch, Aaron Copland, Leonard Cohen, Bob Dylan, George Gershwin, Morton Gould, Gustav Mahler, Andre Previn, Arnold Schoenberg, Harold Arlen, Shalom Secunda, Kurt Weill, even Stephen Schwartz, the composer of hit Broadway shows like Wicked, Pippin, Godspell, and even the animated movie The Prince of Egypt. And that list is just the tip of the iceberg. Even if the music is not recognizably Jewish, does the composer's Jewish identity have an impact on the piece? Does Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue sound Jewish? Well, the beginning clarinet riff kind of does. Gary, can you play a few bars of Rhapsody in Blue for us? How about the song he wrote, It Ain't Necessarily So, from Porgy and Bess? It is said that Gershwin recalled his bar mitzvah when composing it. It ain't necessarily so, Baruchu et Adonai hamavorah. You hear the connection. There are a number of Jewish composers or singer-songwriters who have written beautiful and moving words with texts either taken directly from religious texts or inspired by Jewish teachings. Some of them have names you might recognize: Debbie Friedman, Craig Taubman, Michael Isaacson, Abby Greenberg, Yossi Green, the Maccabees. Well, there's a great example of taking non-Jewish music and making it Jewish. The most popular is Shlomo Carlebach, whose world following is the stuff of legend. But Reb Shlomo's simple tunes are singable, and all come from the nigunim he learned. But to quote Rabbi Sachs again, our generation needs new songs so that we too can sing joyously to God, as our ancestors did at the moment of transfiguration when they crossed the Red Sea and emerged the other side free at last. When the soul sings, the spirit soars. In conclusion, when I think of the question, what is Jewish music, I recall the incredible experience Karen and I shared at a Jewish music symposium that took place at the 92nd Street Y in New York City in the 1990s. Cantors, composers, and ethnomusicologists came together to discuss the question, what is Jewish music? For several days, there were lectures, practicums, and discussions on all the factors that would define Jewish music. I remember the Israeli-Hungarian composer and ethnomusicologist Andrei Hazzan of blessed memory, who said, "It is the prominence of the minor second, interspersed with the minor Mixolydian ancient scales of trope and nusach that define Jewish music." On the other hand, the grandfather of the klezmer clarinet, Giora Feidman, of Bessarabian parents who was born in Argentina and emigrated to Israel, said, "It's the melodies that touch our souls, making you want to dance, to cry, to laugh." And these differences of opinions climaxed at the final session. There was a cacophony of demonstrative yelling that reminded me of a day in the Zionist Congress. Well, that's a story of a different time. At the end of the afternoon that day, blood was boiling, blood pressures were high, and nothing was agreed upon. Very Jewish. But everyone had a few hours to calm down in preparation for the ultimate concert that evening, with symphony orchestra, cantors, and instrumentalists singing and playing compositions of all the delegates in attendance. It was quite a moving musical experience. Of course, the final piece was a miraculous moment in and of itself. A modern composition by Andrei Hazzan with plenty of dissonance, even using a shofar as one of the instruments in the orchestra, played by, who else? Giora Feidman. Two musicians who had diametrically opposing views of what is Jewish music could come together through Jewish music. He got a standing ovation. But all the while, during the thunderous applause, Giora Feidman put down his shofar, picked up his signature Lucite clarinet, quieted the crowd to silence, and began playing something we really had to listen closely to hear and recognize. Slowly, he would get a little louder in his playing, and systematically, one by one, each person in the audience recognized the melody with a sigh of relief. We all softly began humming with Giora the melody of Goldfarb's Shalom Aleichem. It grew with intensity. Several of us adding the words and singing with great fervor and passion, with tears in our eyes, sang the final three words, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There was a peaceful tranquility in the next few seconds of absolute silence, only broken by Giora Feidman himself when he said, "That's Jewish music." Please follow along on the back of your Shabbat handout as I present When You Believe by Stephen Schwartz from the animated movie, The Prince of Egypt. Many nights we've prayed with no proof anyone could hear. In our hearts a hopeful song we barely understood. Now we are not afraid, although we know there's much to fear. We were moving mountains long before we knew we could. There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill. Who knows what miracles you can achieve when you believe? Somehow you will. You will when you believe. In this time of fear, when prayer so often proved in vain, hope seemed like the summer birds too swiftly flown away. Yet now I'm standing here with heart so full I can't explain, seeking faith and speaking words I never thought I'd say. There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill. Who knows what miracles you can achieve when you believe? Somehow you will. You will when you. Shirah l'Adonai ki gaoga. Shirah l'Adonai ki gaoga. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha ne'edar b'kodesh. Nachita v'chazdecha hamzu ge'alta, nachita v'chazdecha hamzu ge'alta. Ashira, 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 ashira l'Adonai ki gaoga. Ashira l'Adonai ki gaoga. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha ne'edar b'kodesh. Nachita v'chazdecha hamzu ge'alta, nachita v'chazdecha hamzu ge'alta. Ashira, ashira, ashira. There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill. Who knows what miracles you can achieve when you believe? Somehow you will. Now you will. You will when you believe. You will when you believe. Shabbat shalom.